What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to give you guys a very quick update about NIO and the markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvidia. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth of the stock, or deposits $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, as far as NIO is going, we have a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder that's been forming. And overall, we kind of pumped and rejected right here, bringing us back down to the low $5 area. Now, if we lose this support at 5.25, we could continue to dump back down towards the lower $5. And so far, we're seeing some weakness on NIO. So we're looking at a potential left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. The reason NIO is dumping is because after earnings came out, it wasn't really enough to wow investors because their margins are getting more slim, and we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. Simultaneously, they ended up decreasing their deliveries guidance to 120 to 125,000 for Q4. Before they were saying 150,000, so not the best of news as well. Heading into tomorrow, I just want to remind you all it's going to be Thanksgiving, so I want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving for all my Americans watching. I also want to say I'm very grateful for everyone that's here, and there's not going to be any data or any significant news coming out for the markets specifically, at least that's scheduled for tomorrow, so keep that in mind. And we're going to be back in action on Friday. Also, I want to add on that with their earnings coming out, we're still seeing NIO showing some weakness. There's no earnings coming out, and right now the market's very optimistic, pricing in a cut by the Fed in December, and we're seeing another increase in the overnight repurchase agreements by the Fed, which tells us that the Fed is easing a bit more. So unfortunately, there's a head and shoulders on NIO, and it looks like we're going to be dipping closer to the low $5 area. I think we still look more bearish. SPY, however, looks decent. We're trying to push right now. However, I do want to note the possibility when you look at the 4-hour time frame that SPY could also be forming a potential inverse head and shoulders. So one thing that happened was that we had this giant left shoulder. This is kind of like a head. And as SPY is pushing, you want to be very careful between 582 and 585, because the last time we touched 585, we got a rejection. And if we do reject near the mid 580s, if we do end up turning back down towards like 575 or so, we're going to be watching to see if we form like a right shoulder before we continue to rally. So we're going to see if the market gets some kind of rejection before we see another big pump. And the same thing is forming on the triple Q. Now, the triple Q is at resistance right here near 618. Could go a little bit higher, closer to 620 if this continues. But then we're watching to see if we're about to dip to form that right shoulder before we get ready for an end of the year squeeze, right? And obviously the QQQ is behind SPY. There is still so much upside potential. On the IWM, we pushed about 248. We're still looking more bullish. Do we continue to push for the highs, or do we start to reject? If we reject here, we're going to be looking to see if this is like a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. So I'll be watching that as well. ES also has a similar setup, but it has not possibly completed its upside yet. We had 6840. Could we go closer to like 6900? It's possible. But between 6850 and 6900, I'd be very careful to see if we form some kind of top. And if we do get a pullback, I'm going to be eyeing a possible like right shoulder before we try to bounce like this. Same thing with NQ. We're watching resistance at 25,400. We're going to see if we turn down before potentially bouncing. Bitcoin has been pumping quite a bit. It's still looking more bullish, favoring 92,000. Tesla's on an uptrend, but I do want to note that this kind of resembles a rising wedge. So it may continue to uptrend for the low 430s, and we're going to see if we get a rejection or not. For Nvidia, we basically have a double bottom-like structure with a bullish divergence. If we could break 184, we're looking for a bounce. If not, we could be dumping. So we're going to see if we dip first before we try to bounce. For Aapl, we're basically looking more bullish as we're trying to make higher highs and higher lows. Then we could be dipping back down towards this 276 to 275 zone before we try to bounce. Overall, there might be a small dip on Aapl. AMD is more bullish, favoring 217. Coinbase is looking for 270s or potential targets. Amazon's holding up well. We might dip towards 227.5 before we try to bounce again. Meta could also be dipping back down to 630 or so, but overall it's more bullish. And then Google, we're going to see if we test 313 before we try to bounce. And Microsoft is still forming a nice looking inverse head and shoulders accumulation, so it could push for like the 490s before it turns back down and bounces, so keep that in mind. Finally, the VIX has been dipping quite a bit. We're going to see if the VIX gets some kind of bounce or not before it ends up turning down. So I'll be watching this very, very closely. So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I think that the overall market looks more bullish. We're going to see if we go a little higher on SPY before we turn down to possibly form our right shoulder. And then overall, it's very possible the market has bottomed and we're about to form a right shoulder. And then that could be, once again, another buying opportunity that could be coming if we do get some kind of pullback near these levels. And then the end of the year still has a lot of upside potential. I think that we're still looking quite good. So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your guys' days. Unfortunately, NIO's looking kind of weak compared to SPY in the QQQ, so there's a large head and shoulders, and it looks like we could be tipping to the low $5 area. If anything, there's going to be another buying opportunity on NIO, so be patient and do what you have to do, guys. Also, I want to wish you guys a very happy Thanksgiving, so I will not likely see you guys tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. Until then, enjoy the holiday, do what you have to do, guys, and peace out.